How's it going, guys? Folks, that's not too bright, is it? I'm gonna have to fix the lighting. I thought I just had that fixed up. Well, I'm gonna move this a bit closer. Can you see me good enough or what? Off to a good start here.
Long before the white man came to haul the shining car.
Yeah.
When the wild
That's what I brought it. What happens when
Caribou traversed the snow-clad sun, the native man, he walked these hills and he fished the silvery lakes, content with what the land would give, not one bit more would take.
do this, I think.
But soon the word it was put out from every country, for to find the northern passage from sea to the shine.
Now I got lights in my eyes, but that's it. It'll do. I tried to put that white thing behind us so you can see me a little better. So, been back now from a trip, me and Saku for just about 4 full weeks up into up on Newfoundland's Great Northern Peninsula. If you don't know much about it, type it into Google. A wonderful area. Part of the Long Range Mountains extend up there. It's a narrow peninsula of about anywhere from 80 to 100 kilometers in width, but it runs about 300 plus kilometers long. So we went up there just on a backpacking trip. No canoe or nothing like that. In a nutshell, it's kind of difficult to plan a canoeing trip or even with the raft up there, because this is a narrow peninsula and we were moving from north to south coming down it, and all the rivers and brooks and everything runs to one side or the other side. So not very practical to use any type of boat to traverse it from north moving south as we done. But I of course took the camera along and filmed the trip, and it will make it to YouTube eventually down the road in due time. Next up, though, coming this fall is going to be a 6-episode series on a winter trip. A couple winter trips I've gone on over the last couple of years. That'll be going to Bell 5 TV first in Canada, but it'll be coming to YouTube shortly after. So this trip will come later on. Maybe it will be early 2022. So there's lots of content to come, lots of trips. Anyways, I was down just putting some of my gear now. I've been home for 2.5, 3 weeks. And I was kind of making some notes here in my book on the gear I took, listing it all my stuff that I had, from tools to tents and sleeping bags, fishing gear, everything, clothing, the works of it. So I make notes of it all, then I list it all, make a few notes on each item. So I'm just going to kind of brisk through it here this evening. That's the plan. And I'm not going to answer any questions. I'm sorry, they're probably popping up now. So I don't plan on answering any questions here this afternoon, but I hope by going through some of this stuff here now, I'll answer some of your questions that you have. And by all means, leave some questions below. Fire a bunch in there. I'll go through them later at some point in time when time allows, and I'll make note for future videos to hit on some of those points that you leave, because there's always great points made. They're not always great, and not everything that comes in on the comment section is what you want to see. But that's it. You take it with a grain of salt. Sometimes, I do take the criticism, the constructive criticism, and other times I just turn the other eye because I'm set in my ways, I suppose, or maybe it wasn't a good comment. But we won't get into that either. Leave some questions, and I'll certainly go through them. This video is not sponsored by Inukshuk, though they did provide food for many trips for myself, Saku and Beer. I had some of their food with me this summer. High energy dog food. Inukshuk professional dog food is what it's called. I use a 32-32 formula for Saku and Beer when I've taken them out on trips. Great for these long hauls when the dogs are burning a ton of energy, keeps them going. I notice a difference when they get on that food. So they have different concentrations. This is the 32-32 one I use is the most calorie dense food they have, and for the trips I go on, I want to have as much calories for the least weight possible. So I've taken this food on the trips, but when I get home, I stop giving it to the dogs because within days, of course, I got to wean them off the food. You can't just go right back on to normal kibble. I just wean them off it, and but if I were to keep them on it, and I tried it one time with Saku, he blew up. He started packing the weight on real quick because I just couldn't match the type of activity that we would have been doing out on a trip. So long story short, I just used this food for the trips, but it was a nice backdrop. It was white, and I thought it might make things stand out a little more clear. So I am going to get into the gear, just making sure now I haven't missed anything. Yeah, that's about it. I do want to thank Heather, of course, for getting me to the starting point of this trip, me and Zach, and come and picking us up at the end. Big part of this trip. I also want to thank Loa. They're not sponsoring this video either. I didn't have any gear sponsors other than them for this particular trip. They gave me passed along a pair of boots that I tested out for them. I'll show you them later. But I want to thank them for supporting me and Zach, and it's a good brand. And I like to work with people and companies that I enjoy their gear. I enjoy using their equipment. It's stuff that actually works, and I'm not just doing it just to get a few extra bucks out of it or get some free gear. I use these boots because they're good, and I enjoy them, and they're tested. I've had them on plenty of trips, so I'm proud to work with them, and I'm grateful for that. So just a shout out to Loa Boots. I work with Loa Canada in particular, so I guess there's Loa USA and probably Loa Europe, but it's a worldwide brand. And a little shout out to a local store here in Newfoundland and Labrador called the Outfitters, and they gave me. I stopped down there, and they give me a little support from time to time. But so got a few items from them on this trip as well, but all of these comments on the gear, all this gear was all stuff I got myself. Other than the boots, it was all stuff I paid, my own money for. So I guess all my comments, if I make any comment on a piece of gear, it's unbiased because it's just stuff I bought of my own money, went and took it out and took it for a spin and seen what it was like. I'm going to let you know. Some of it anyways. What are we at 10 minutes here? I'm going to try to keep this under an hour. And yeah, we'll go from there. One more thing I want to mention was on the third, I think it was the third or fourth episode of the last series, Barbara and Saku Through the Woods was what it was called, but I think I said 52 days on a wild North Atlantic island. Anyways, that last series, episode 3 or 4, I did a giveaway of a Man and Dog book and Saku's great Newfoundland adventure. So there are 2 books that I've published: Man and Dog Through the Newfoundland Wilderness on our 68-day expedition across Newfoundland back in 2017. And in Saku, this was a book written by a local author, Marie Beth Wright. The book is called Saku's Great Newfoundland Adventure. All ages book, but more aimed at the youth to get them excited about the outdoors. So I did giveaway for 2 of those books. And, you can also get them on Amazon and these kind of places. But I did a giveaway in that series, 3rd or 4th episode. I haven't heard back from the winner. And I was going to write it down and I forgot. But if you go back in the 3rd or 4th episode, the pinned comment at the top, that's where I put the winner's name. So I can quickly, I'm not going to waste time and go back now. 3rd or 4th episode, pinned comment. If you left a comment in that particular video, like I said to do, you were entered in the draw, and I picked the winner's name. Again, don't remember, but 3rd or 4th episode, pinned comment, the winner's name is listed. So go check to see if it was you. So anyway, yeah, looks like there's a few people here. So guys, I appreciate you tuning in. And I'm going to start now whipping through some of this. I don't have anything else left to say. A couple comments there, and I appreciate all of it, guys. Really do. What am I going to get into first? Just give me a second here now. I suppose, just before I start, can you hear me? Can everyone hear me well? Someone leave a comment there, thumbs up, whatever. And then we'll get going. Yeah, okay, perfect. All right. So, first thing I'm going to get into is I'm going to just start with the communications gear, I think, that I took, and the navigation stuff I have it listed as. So the first thing, Garmin InReach Explorer with its charging cable. Bit of a shadow going on there. I'm trying to keep out of there. But I've had this rig. I've used this on every trip since crossing Newfoundland. 2-way communicating device, has a GPS built into it. A very rugged, durable device. Has the SOS feature. So I use this for my GPS. It also has weather updates that I get from time to time. Maybe I do it once a week or something, once or twice a week. I don't try to rely on it. First of all, because sometimes it is inaccurate, and that'll lead you, weary maybe. And I like to get used to reading the clouds and the sky and all that kind of stuff. And it gives that extra form of disconnection and not be checking the weather reports every day. But it has all the good stuff. The biggest thing is the SOS and having that peace of mind when you're far away and something could go wrong. You never know. You don't think that way, but it's good to have it. I can send a few messages to Heather at the end of the day. There's different packages you can get that allow you to have a certain amount of messages per month. But it's a good device. I've had that for a number of years. It also allows me to post updates on the Facebook and the Twitter, which I do. Now, I can't see any of the social media. I'm disconnected from everything, but I can post there, and you guys can see my location, which I've done sometimes in the past. So I had that. I'm not going to try to rant down too long. The things I guess I'll lay them there. So I also had, what else did I got listed on the go here? So I always have my phone along with me as a backup camera. It gives you that feature. You have the backup camera. It's good for note taking. I have some books I download on the phone that I read. It beats taking 2 or 3 actual books. Maybe I took 1 book along on this trip, but the rest I had on this phone because I do a fair bit of reading and stuff in the evening time. But I don't. This is the last thing that gets any charging power. Cameras get it first. The GPS gets it first. So, but I take it along for some of those reasons. Maybe a scattered bit of music once in a while, but that's also pretty rare because I just can't afford to be charging that phone all the time. But I do take it with me. Then I have, for navigation, I got a compass, which is in so this is I think it's a seal line, large, waterproof Mac bag. It's got a nice little Ziploc kind of seal on the top here. So in it, and sometimes, I always keep the maps in here because I don't laminate them. I find when you laminate them, I'll tell you, I have never tried laminating them, but I can't imagine it's too easy to fold up and fit the maps in the bag. So this is what I've chosen to do. And again, there's a million ways to do things, folks, but this is just what I choose to do. In here, so I keep my compass. I just had a Sunto. I don't know. It's a Sunto M3g Compass. Sometimes I've used the ones with a mirror. They have a mirror on them, but this time around, I just went with this one. I broke the mirror one. Mirror makes it it's nice because you can use it to see yourself once in a while. When you're out for a long time, that helps just to check, make sure everything's going. Maybe you have a bad sunburn or it's frostbite or something. But it's not necessary. It also helps for sighting a bearing a little easier when you have this little mirror thing that pops up. But a normal one, just a flat one, is good. So I took that. That goes in the mat bag. And then I have, I had 150,000, 1 to 50,000 topographic mats. And I had 5 of those in here, along with some 1 and 250,000 scale mats that I just ripped out of a mat book I have. And it covered the area we were in. So overall, just 5 mats, 1 in 50,000 scale, so I could really see in detail. The 1 in 250,000 scale is not so detailed. So some days I was navigating with the map and compass. Other days, say if it was wet or I wanted to be a little more efficient and quicker, and I didn't want to be glancing down at the compass so often or at the maps, then I'd use my GPS. So it was a bit of both. If I wasn't using the maps at the time, I would put them in my pack. If I was using them, I used carabiners to clip, and you've probably seen this in some of the videos. I just clip the Mac bag onto the back of my pack, or maybe on the canoe if I'm canoeing, and you can put your map out the way, whatever you want to see, and it's right in front of you, and you can see everything perfect. So this one's been through the ringer, taped it up, but it's not leaking. Had a couple little tears there. So you make things last as long as you can. So that's good. Something else I wanted to mention, I just thought about it then. I'm going to lay this off to the side. I was actually testing something on my phone this trip as well. It's an app called Canon Maps Pro, and I downloaded topographic maps for the area I was in. And part of that app is you see the topographic maps, but you can also pair that with the GPS built into the app. So I can see myself on the topographic map. And that was something I hadn't used before on the trips. I use it a bit locally when I have service. Of course, other than a few high peaks, I did have service on this trip for the first time ever. But besides that, I had nothing. So again, I couldn't use that app a whole lot, but I did try it out when I could. But locally, I take it out with me and use it around here, but I hadn't had a chance to take it out. Now, you don't need service to use the actual app itself. In airplane mode, if you've downloaded the maps, you don't need the service. So I tried it out. Again, it's called Canada Maps Pro, and it's a nice little app. Check it out if you're interested. So I had a couple different navigation things with me. I always have the map and compass because the technology could fail. And then if you're stuck out there with your GPS gone and you're not used to navigating with a map and compass, which you should practice, as much as you can. If you're not used to navigating that way and your stuff fails, your technology, well, you're in trouble. So it's good to have both navigation forms along with you. So the map bag, the topographic maps, the compass, talked about the phone and some of the uses there, and then the InReach Explorer. And then I have a watch, which also has a compass. I don't like how this is darker, but this is all we can do, isn't it? This little watch I have is a Timex Tide temperature compass, so you can use it as a compass once it's calibrated, and you can use it to check tide and temperature. So not a bad little bonus device. I mean, watches are good too, just to as you're moving along, checking your time quickly, how many kilometers you can do per hour, 1 kilometer or 1 hour, you may do 3, and you might want to keep that pace up. So it's good to have the watch there to be checking in on stuff like that. It's just easier to keep yourself in check with the time. Nice waterproof watch, of course. So for the shelter sleep system, so I just had sleeping bag. Actually, I'll start with the tent. Had the old trusty MSR Hubba 2-person. I've used this a lot. Compact tent, fairly light. It's about 3 pounds. And the tent poles, so that doesn't take up very much room. A couple pegs are in there as well. On my last series, I had issues with the tent poles, the 52-day series, and I voiced my opinion a little bit there in the last episode. Anyhow, I sent the tent back to MSR, so they sent me brand new poles, so that was good of them. No issues on this trip. I could go with a 1-person tent, and I thought about it before the trip. Could have saved certainly a pound or so, maybe even a little more. But the thing is, with Saku and I, it becomes difficult for 2 of us to cram into a 1-person tent. With a 2-person tent, it's a bit more luxurious. That's it. I'm not, I like to keep things light, but I'm not extremely obsessed with becoming light as possible. I mean, I don't mind carrying a bit of a weight around. Next, we get sleeping bag. So keep the sleeping bag in a dry bag. This is just a dry bag I got from Canadian Tire, made by Woods. 10-liter bag, perfect size for the sleeping bag. And it was only $20, something like that. I mean, some of the dry bags you can get are pretty expensive. Like I have Outdoor Research ones. I have some made by Sea to Summit. They're more expensive, but this was a good. I've used these a few times now. We used them on the 52-day trip. Woods, Canada. Maybe you can get something equivalent elsewhere in the world, but so I kept my sleeping bag in there. So the sleeping bag It's 770 grams, so almost 1.7 pounds. Just a rad Neutrino 400. Same sleeping bag I used crossing Newfoundland, crossing Labrador into Quebec. And I use it for this trip. I've got it washed numerous times, which is important. Sleeping bags can get pretty grimy if you don't keep them, if you don't clean them. So again, this is a bit more of a cold, I wouldn't call it, it's not like winter's camping bag, but it has a comfort level of -1. So there was nights, comfort level of -1. Its limit is -7, and it has an extreme limit of -25. So more or less, Rad had their ambassador athletes test this in the coldest temperatures possible, and I think they survived for 8 hours at -25, or something along those lines is what I've read. But bit of a warmer bag. There's certainly nights where I slept with it zipped all the way down, but where I was in a high terrain, some of it was mountainous, I had some cold nights. Even some of the days were 7-8 degrees Celsius. So this bag done the trick. Fairly light, compact. Yeah, did the job. This sleeping bag's been with me through a lot of trips. So I'm going to lay that there. No other notes I really made on that. It's good choice for a mountain climate where it can get cold in the evening. So that's it. So I've gone over the sleeping bag, the tent, my tarp, same tarp I always use. It's a rag. This is a rag brand as well. It's a sill tarp 2, 8x10 tarp. Perfect size for a couple people. Good strong tie down points on it. I don't know how much the tarp weighs, about 1 pound. There's 9 tie out points, so that's good. Lots of areas. I've weathered heavy rain in this, no issues whatsoever. And just having the tarp, like you can go out in those heavy rains if you got a decent tarp set up. You practice setting up tarps, and you can go out in a heavy rain and have a little fire underneath the edge of the tarp. Your fire's protected. A lot of people think your tarp gets burn holes and it'll catch on fire. Well, I mean, if you're going to have a fire that's going 6 or 7 feet up in the air, a big old blaze, and putting your tarp underneath, you will catch it on fire. You will burn your tarp. The worst I've had is a couple small burn holes. Nothing that a bit of duct tape can't fix. So I had that tarp with me. Go out, lie underneath it. If you're having a fire under a tarp, it's important to just keep an eye on it. You're not going to go on for 20 minutes and walk down the pond somewhere and leave the fire going. You shouldn't do that regardless. Never leave your fire alone and unattended like that, especially in the summertime. But you can have a nice little fire. Just keep an eye on it. It's one of those things. You just always got to be watching it. Don't get distracted. That's my thoughts on it. I'm always conscious that it's burning. So we have a tarp. So my shelter system, we went over the tent, tarp, sleeping bag. I just had this Thermarest, Ridge Rest sleeping pad. I'm all for the foam sleeping pads. Perfect rig. Very light, goes on the back of my pack. I can go out by the fire. I can lay down. Don't got to worry about burn holes going through an inflatable pad and then having to patch it up later. Sticks can go up through your pad. I have a couple holes on this sleeping pad where sticks had gone up through it because I was out lying by the fire. So no inflatable for me. Maybe down the road when my back starts getting in hard shape, but for now, I'm all about the light, easy going foam mat. Next for the shelter system, I had Paracord. I had 92 feet of Paracord. So that was about enough. I have notes saying I could have used a little bit more, maybe another 25 to 50 feet, because there was times where I was up in the barrens, not a tree around, and I probably could have used some rocks and some stuff to set the tarp up, but I needed a bit more rope for that because I was also using some of my rope to keep the tent down with big rocks where it was so windy. But I had 92 feet of paracord. I had bright orange paracord like this. But I also had some camo stuff, and I'm never going to use it again. I don't know if I got any down here right now near me, but I always typically use something bright colored. But this camo stuff that I got at Canadian Tire, brutal. If you lay it down on the ground somewhere, you can't see it. A few times I almost lost a 15-foot length of it because I laid it down and it got tangled up in a few bushes. If you anything like that you're going to lay on the ground, try to get it some sort of a brighter color, right? I had a couple of these pull straps with me. These blue pull straps, I got these at Home Depot. And that's what I use to strap the sleeping pad on back of my bag instead of, tying something every time, which doesn't take long either. These straps are nice. You just pull them tight. Blue pull straps, plastic buckle too. Nothing metal. Metal will be a bit too. You don't want to remove weight when you can, right? I'm going to remove it if I can. So no metal on those. And that's it for the camp kind of gear. I don't take a pillow or nothing like that. For me, I just cram my rain gear up there into a bundle or whatever bit of clothing I got that's dry, and I use that as a pillow. Sometimes, because I'm going through areas of Crown land, when I was in some wooded sections, it's okay to snap a few boughs off. It's not a sin. There's millions of trees here. It's I can understand in populated areas where a lot of people are coming through. Say, I know there's viewers in places like Ontario, and they go through these parks. I mean, I don't know too much about them, but from what I can tell, somewhere like Algonquin, maybe. I guess a lot of people go through these, and are they provincial parks? Are they not? So you can't really be going snapping boughs off. But I have done that, like I would winter camping, putting them down as a mat, as the ground cover for my canvas tent. What I do sometimes is just snap a few boughs and put them under my tent right where I put my head. Just a few. But, provincial parks, and even there's places in Newfoundland, provincial parks, you can't do that. But you're out in the Crown land, deep in the wilderness. I didn't see anyone for 24 days, not another human soul. So there's no worry about people going out there and snapping all the boughs. But you just, it's different for whatever area you live. Check the local rules and regulations. But if you're far up in the north, somewhere, deep in the woods, Crown land, get a few boughs. So, yeah, either that or mostly just clothing as the pillow. Cooking gear. So for cooking gear, this was it. This was my kitchen right here, very light, and a cup, the old enamel cup. Took that. Enamel cups are good. They're durable. They can be used to boil water. You can lay that mug right on the fire or rewarm your coffee. I'm always rewarming my coffee. I don't like it lukewarm. So as soon as it starts cooling off, I throw it on the fire or next to the fire. So I had just a titanium spork. Sea to Summit, I think, very light. And just, you can get by with just one spoon. That's all you really need. Doesn't matter. 1 month, 2 months, 3 months, 2 days. All I ever need is one spoon. But just in case, I threw in this wooden one. Very light. I mean, I could just carve one out there if I needed to. but I took along this one this time. I think I used it twice. And one time, of course, wooden, it blends in. I laid that on the ground and almost lost it. The titanium one is cool. Then I have a aluminum kettle. So I retired my other one for now, a stainless steel one I've been using for a while, but I went with this one, a lot lighter for backpacking. So it's an aluminum kettle. I don't know if it's 950 milliliters is the kettle. And inside of that, I have this. The kettle is a GSI Halu Light, and this is an MSR frying pan. First time I ever tried it, called the Quick Skillet. Very light again, aluminum. Comes with a little grip that clips on here. Little pot grip. Good for good. Just like this versus stainless steel, these aluminum cookware heats up a lot quicker. This was a non-stick surface on this frying pan. I like that about it. They're very easy to clean. On these kettles, it came with a rubber grip. I removed that because I melted one in the past. So I removed the rubber grip here. There's an orange rubber grip. Don't need it. What else? What other notes do I have about? These things are as light as titanium, which is great. Like I said, they heat up quick, so that saves on wood or fuel. I didn't carry fuel on this trip. I just went with wood only, trying to keep my weight as light as possible. This has a little bit of plastic on it, this pot grip handle. Little bit of plastic here, down bottom. And there's a little bit of plastic right here where it latches on. So you want to watch it around a big fire because it could burn pretty quick. And I don't know if that would affect how the pot grip works, but I just kept my eye on it the whole month out there. And again, that was the first time I've ever used this, and it done me well. So I enjoyed it, and I'll use it again, of course. I don't know. Maybe it'll get worn out quickly. Like, I don't know. I haven't used these non-stick pots and pans before. I've always used stainless steel. So that's it. And what I do is I just have an old little cloth here, which is nice and clean. And I lay that in here. And it's just a cushion because this gets full of soot and everything else and might go scraping up the frying pan. And, you know, I don't really care about the soot. You can wipe that off anyways. But just nest it in there. Nest it nice and soft. And you got an extra little rag you have around. Who knows when you might need it. Everything goes in here. That's spoon, all that kind of stuff. Lay that back in here. Tuck it in. That's it. So spoons, forks, pots, pans. That's pretty much it. Probably put a list of this stuff up online in due time. I'm going to lay this stuff over here now as I'm done with it. Back in a second. So I also had, forgot now, I had an Nalgene bottle just for water and stuff. You know, use it for picking some berries, baked apples. But good to have that throughout the day, of course. So that's a 1 liter Nalgene bottle. They're strong and light. Measurements, helpful to have the measurements there. You know, certain things call for so much of this or so much of that. Like I know, you know, you can eye it out, but I think my instant potatoes calls for 2 cups of water. So I just use this to be a bit more accurate about it. And I also use an Nalgene bottle for while we're kind of on the cooking gear. I take a liter of, trying to prevent that shadow that's going on, but that's it. I use this for my olive oil. I take a liter with me per month, and that's usually a little more than you need. So there's 350, 400 milliliters left in that. But olive oil is what I use in the summertime because it doesn't melt like butter would. And for frying up trout, olive oil, I put olive oil in my oatmeal that I have every morning for breakfast. Put a couple tablespoons in the oatmeal. I also put a couple tablespoons in my supper, so whatever it might be, pasta or whatnot. Every tablespoon adds 120 calories, good fat calories. So, and there's times where I've just drank it by the spoon. So you can get good calories with olive oil for the weight, of course, calorie dense, like any food high in fat would be. In that case, I believe it's all fat, olive oil. So, and then the final item was this. This is part of the kitchen kit, one of these Woods bags, because I use it as a water bag. Now, a couple times I had a camp high up on a ridge, 1,600 feet up. I wanted a good view for our campsite. Maybe there was, in one particular situation, the water source was a little ways from the campsite, say 150 yards. Instead of walking back every time I need water, this is good in any situation when you're far from a lake or pond or a river. Fill the bag up, and then you don't got to go back down to the water no more until you leave camp the next morning or whenever it might be. Especially with me having Saku with me, I need water for him too. So that'll be more trips back and forth. I only have a Nalgene bottle for water and the kettle, and could be using the kettle for supper. So it's good to have an extra little thing. So I just fill this up with water, and roll it up, and I could bring 8 or 9 liters up to my campsite and lay it down. And these dry bags have this little thing here on the bottom. So you've probably seen it in dry bags before. Once you get all the air out, then you close the spout, and it's nice and airtight, as these dry bags should be. But it could also be used, I didn't do it myself because I went for swims, but it could be used in a shower in a certain situation. You tie this up with a tree, I was thinking, and pop the little latch here, because I was using this latch to get water out of it, just like I had a little one of those water machines with me. Open it up, one of those ones you put a big jug on top and you just go hit the button and the water comes out. Do the same thing here. Open that up and the water spits out, or you could use it as a shower, is where I was going with it. Put that up on a tree and you can get a rinse. So it's good. Important. Water is very important. You got to drink a lot of it. And when I'm out there, always drinking water, sweating a lot. Don't want to be cramping up. Waters and salts, electrolytes. So, same for Sack. He needs the water too. So I don't take, I had that little dishcloth there, that little orange one that nests in my cooking gear, but I don't use that to wash the dishes. All I use is moss. I use moss, either, the sphagnum moss that would be in the woods, caribou moss up on the ridges, or I use a bit of the tip of a spruce bough or the tip of a fir bough. Use that just to clean off my dishes. I don't take any. I used to take a little scrub pad with me, but you don't need it because you can use sand. There's lots of different things out there. Less you got, the better it is, right? So don't take nothing for washing dishes. So that's through all that kind of stuff. Now I'm going to get into what I had for storing the gear. One sec there now. So for storing my gear, I had this 110 liter Kelty bag. 110 liters. Used it crossing Newfoundland, crossing Labrador, other trips, other shorter trips, and just used it then for another month up in the mountains. So again, made by Kelty, 110 liters. Perfect size to fit everything you need for a month. Food, gear. This bag's been through the ringer. Got my money's worth. Somewhere around 350 Canadian. I got it down in Florida at Bass Pro Shops back in like 2016. But you know what? There's pouches are a bit torn off it, ripped up. There's a pouch torn up there. A lot of this happened on this trip just then. Bushwhacking through some Tuckamore, some tears. But it's still good to go. Still good to go. But I think I'm going to get a new one for backpacking and hiking. Anyways, Kelty, 110 liter. I don't even think they make it anymore. Dogs are going mad. But 100 to 110 liter, you need that much going on for a long period of time. You know, especially 3 or 4 weeks. Starting off, I had with me, while we're on that topic of gear, I had 98 pounds. While we're on the bag topic, I had 98 pounds in my bag. Saku had 22 pounds in his. All the Saku's was dog food, 22 pounds of dog food, other than a little piece of rope I had in there for his leash, a piece of paracord, and his bowl, his collapsible bowl. My 98 pounds included food, so it was roughly 1.5 pounds of food per day, and all my gear. Plus, I started off because Saku had about 25 pounds of food, so I had to take 5 pounds of his food starting off because I couldn't fit any more of it in his bag, and 22 pounds was the limit for him. And he's carried that much before. Saku's a very strong dog, and he has no trouble getting that around, but that's all the bag could handle. So that's kind of how it was. So 98 pounds for me, and 22 for Saku. So for me to have Saku's food and have the gear that we needed, my food, 110 liter bag, perfect size for me. So that's part of the transportation system. Good thing about that bag too, it has nice side pouches that are torn up now, but they're good for keeping the fishing rod down there, tucking in my gun, tripod, axe, all that kind of good stuff. So again, these pouches right here, it's kind of hard to see now. You have a pouch down bottom, and then this is a side pouch, and your hand can run underneath that, so you can stick things in here and keep them on the outside of your pack. Also a nice little pouch on top here for quick access to items once you got your bag done up. And people have seen bags, you know what it's all about. Nice big top pouch. Yeah, kitchen gear here. I'm gonna lay that out of the way. I was just thinking, I just seen that cloth there as well, and I was talking about using boughs to lay on by the fire as a potential little pillow with just a few to clean dishes. One thing when you're snapping off boughs, I've seen people go right to the end of the tree with an axe and hack off the entire bough. You don't need to do that. If you just take the top tip of the bough, maybe it's a foot of bough, and do that and get a bunch of those little foot lengths, the rest of the bough will continue to grow. That doesn't kill the tree. Now, it's nice to take a few all over the place so you leave a minimum trace. Utmost importance, that is to leave a very minimum trace, especially in more populated areas where people travel through a lot. But I try to cover up fire pits, not to be ripping these boughs down like a madman, but just little bits here and there. And what happens is when you rip it at one of the ends, the side boughs that are growing beneath where you snapped it will take over. And within a year, that bough will grow in. You come by there, you'd never know anyone was there. So if you are in a crown land area, if you are able to take a few boughs for whatever the purpose might be, just snap the tips. You don't need to go hacking away the whole bough. Not needed. That way, we're looking after the environment. And that's important because we want to keep going out there. And if people aren't looking after it, it'll get torn up. So, I went over those bags. Now, I took a bunch of dry bags with me. Furnace kicked in there now. Hope that's not too loud. I took a bunch of dry bags, different from 10 liters up to 30. So this one here was a 30-liter, taped up at the bottom with duct tape, of course. But a 30-liter dry bag. See the Summit, 35 liters, sorry. I had to change that in my notes. I always thought that was 30 liters, you know? But it's 35. So I use that for my food. Then I had two 10-liter bags. One for my sleeping bag. One for my books and notes that I took with me. I had a 15-liter bag for electronics. I had 3 20-liter bags. So one was for my first aid. This one's outdoor research. First aid items and some repair items. And the other 2 were for Saku's food. So I put, so much food in one of these bags. I put it in one of his packs on the side of his, the saddle bags he has. Then I fill up another one and put it on the other side. That way, if, we're trekking through some rain, which we've done, or going through some marshes and boggy areas where his bag is getting wet by the bushes or sagging down into the marshland, his food stayed dry. And I do keep his food into Ziploc bags, but over those Ziploc bags, I put one of these. So I have about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 of those dry bags. One for clothing. I forgot about that. One for clothing, and one for I had the water bag. So that's about it. And I just had a spare one just in case, just an extra one in case I tore one or something. They weigh next to nothing. It's like you just throw it down in your bottom of your bag and forget about it. Yeah. One of the ones I had was a Walmart brand, Ozark Trail. That was $10. This one was very cost efficient. Ozark Trail, 15 liters. Tried them out last year on the 52-day trip. I just like trying out some of the best or most expensive dry bags or pieces of gear on the market versus some of the more the low priced items. And you know what? For $10, these Walmart dry bags aren't too bad. They're not as durable as the other ones, but they do the trick. If I was going on a canoe trip, I wouldn't take them again because of some pinholes that kind of easily get into them. I wouldn't feel, because I had some pinholes in them last year on this 52-day canoeing trip here, that last series that was on the channel. And later in the trip going down the river, I felt like, well, if we capsized the canoe, everything got wet. I don't know if I would want to be relying on this quality of bag. So, there's a fine line between being cost efficient and getting what you pay for. And something like a dry bag on a canoe trip, very valuable. I'd like to have something that's a bit better than these Walmart bags. But going out for a day or two here or there, going out hiking around, or me and Heather went in our rafts there a little, earlier this summer, and we used them. Just a short trip. We weren't doing no rapids or nothing. Not bad for $10. So, pros and cons to everything. But I tried them out. Anyhow, now I know what they're like. I see a few comments, so I just don't. I'm not going to go through them again. I'll look through those after. So I've gone through all my storage and transportation. The dry bags and my big pack there. Also with my pack, I had a rain cover. Probably used this once. Didn't really need it because my stuff is waterproofed in these dry bags within my pack. But once or twice, I think I used it. Like I stopped and it was a downpour rain, so I took this out and just laid it over my pack while I was stopped. But it was hard for me to keep it on. I didn't think about this before I left, but as I'm going, I got my fishing rod stuck out from the back, and I got my sleeping pad on the back, so it's kind of difficult to put this on as well. So rain covers for packs, not a bad idea if you don't got a waterproof bag, but not absolutely necessary if you have all your stuff within your bag in dry bags. Now I'll just quickly show you Saku stuff. You've seen this before. Saku's travel system is pretty basic. He just got his rough wear Palisades pack. It's been through a few battles, a few good hauls out in the old woods. That's what it's made for. But I don't even know. It's the medium size. I don't know the liter numbers and stuff on it. But rough wear Palisades pack, and then in each pouch I have a dry bag for his food, as I said there a minute ago. Here's his little collapsible bowl. Part of Saku's. This is Saku's kitchen, right? Little collapsible bowl does the job. So all that stuff is fired back over there. Yep. Okay. Saku's bag is, I got it written down here. It's 17.5 liters is what he can carry in that bag. So that's not too bad. The large one I made note, which I don't have again because he's too small for it. Large Palisades pack is 24 liters. So I made note of that. So Saku's bag was tore up a nice bit. That was a good indicator of what we dealt with, and it's kind of the Tuckamore, the dwarf shrubs that we had to plow through at times, like my bag being torn up as well. So for tools, just had this thing right here, just hatchet, small hatchet, Fiskars, good cost efficient axe, cuts well. I take a little stone with me and keep it sharp. Just a little puck stone, fine and coarse. You've seen this in some of the videos, I'm sure. Fine on one side, coarse on the other. Grand Firs, Brook, stone, good little, perfect little minimalist stone. Pair that with a file because I have a Leatherman with me. Might as well take that over now because I'm going to talk about it in a second. The Leatherman has a file, so with the little tiny file on this, I can take out some of the big nicks, and then I can touch it up with the stone. It's a good sharpening system for an axe. And the best thing with an axe too is you could sharpen it on a rock if you had to, if you really had to. Whereas I'll get into now in a minute. with saws, taking a saw on a trip, and I'm trying to go as light as possible. If I took just a saw instead of just the axe, well, then I gotta worry about the saw blade, and if that broke, then I gotta take a spear. You don't gotta worry about the blade breaking on an axe. That's one thing I like about it. Very versatile. You can use it, of course, to cut wood, to split wood, for limbing, as a hammer, to clean fish or game. Many uses. You just got to be very careful using it. I'm always taking my time. I'm always conscious every swing, having a nice wide stance so I don't, strike myself in the shin. So I like an axe. That's what I took with me. One cutting tool. Yeah. And you don't need big fires in the summer either. So there was times where I hardly used that axe. I was just breaking off sticks, getting old logs on the forest floor that were a bit damp, smoldering to keep a few flies away and stuff like that. Smoldering fire is good for keeping animals out of your campsite, unwanted animals. So that little axe does the job for me. You can use it to carve if you needed to. Axe is very versatile. I like a saw. Very important to have in the winter time when you need to be bucking up wood. For me, when I go out, I guess it's important for me in the winter time with a canvas tent, wood stove, and just in the winter time, you even if you cold camp and you lie out by the fire under the tarp, even if you have a tent and you sleep in there at nighttime in a nice warm sleeping bag, you want to go out by a fire on a winter's evening. A good buck saw is good for that. But for me out there in the summer on this trip, axe was perfect. One little axe. I got my Leatherman here. Tool of many, many uses. Some uses you don't even know yet, but great to have. Who knows what you could need it for? Pliers are invaluable to have too for fixes and God knows what. So I had stone. Stone is good for sharpening the knife on the Leatherman. I also took this orange Sheath knife. This one was given to me by Tom Weldon. He's over in England, York, England. So Tom passed along, he's a knife maker. He passed along another knife to me. It's a brown handled knife. I used it in the Beta Nord series. Good knives, but this one here he sent me two. So this is the first time I tried it on this trip. Wonderful little knife, nice square edges here for your fire steel if you want to be using that. Small orange handle, of course. Tom knew that. Personally, I like especially the important tools like the axe, a lighter, my match case, knife, orange. Paracord, like I mentioned earlier, camouflage paracord getting lost on the ground. Imagine you had a camouflage handle on your knife, and I think I've seen that before. Anyways, easy to find. So I took that knife along. Beautiful knife. Didn't use it that much though, just for cleaning some fish. I could have got by without it, and I thought about going without it, but I threw it in last minute. Really, the Leatherman and axe could get me through for many months in the woods. How am I doing for battery? I'm doing all right. I'm gone a little bit longer than I thought I was going to be. That's okay. No worries. We're just taking our time here. Just making sure I don't miss nothing. Now I took a little survival rifle along with me. Savage Arms takedown. Breaks down to two little pieces. 22 410. You know, going out long extended trips, protection, noisemaker for bears, and it's a survival tool. You know, maybe a bear, and we've seen a couple. Maybe one comes into the campsite, takes all of our food. We have no food. This becomes a survival tool. You know, no matter what the time of the year is, when your life depends on it, a firearm is a survival tool. So just to took that along, bit of ammo with it for the just in case. Many things on a canoeing trip. Maybe if you flip your canoe over and you lose all your food. So personally, in my opinion, going out, you know, in regions, if you can, you know, if you're out for a long period of time, unwise to travel without a firearm for the use of protection and securing food. More importantly, if maybe you run out of food, you know, lots of reasons to have it. So I took that along. As always, had a shotgun at times as well, but that was a bit lighter than a shotgun. Spin rod. Took this ugly stick spin rod with me. One reel. What else do we got here? I'm not going to haul all this up, but I had just a bag with, because I had my fly rod in this particular case here. Use that a bit as well. So I had my reel for my fly rod, tackle, some line, all that kind of stuff, just in this little bag here. So I had I think I had 7 single hook spinners, 7 treble hook lures, so 14 spinners. You know, I had some swivels, some lead weights, stuff like that. I had a couple dozen flies for the fly rod. I'm not going to get too much into tackle and stuff like that. Yeah, I had leader for the fly rod, of course. All the stuff you need to operate a fly rod or a spin rod. For a survival situation, I just throw in a bit of snare wire. Never know, you might have to get a rabbit or something. Again, this trip, you know, at one point in time, I'm almost, 35, 40 kilometers as the crow flies in a straight line from the nearest road. That's a long ways walking through the terrain. I was in very difficult, rugged terrain. So, something happens. I can't get out of there in a hurry. So I need some ways to procure food, and for me and Saku. So just a survival tool. And I just take a little case here. And I just put in like my firearms license. If it was hunting season, I put in my small game license. I put in my credit card. That's the only thing I take with me, because if I come out of the community, or who knows what might happen, I need to have a little form of money on me. So I just put my credit card in that little hard-shelled case. And then in my pockets, as I'm roaming throughout the day for tools, I'm not going to take it all up, but I have a whistle in my pocket. I have a Paracord bracelet that I wear around my wrist. I have a little bit of paracord in my pocket. fire steel. These are things I wear cargo pants, so I have a few pockets there. Not to throw a few items in. You don't even know you got them. I have a lighter in an orange waterproof case, matches in a waterproof case, and I have my Leatherman in my pocket as well. I usually have a pair of cotton gloves. Never used them once, but I throw them in. I'm not a big wearer of gloves, especially in the summertime, but I throw them in. And I also have this balaclava, Merino Wool, made by a company called North X North. I don't know how they say it, but North X North. But I found them online and picked this up. Wonderful, good for the winter. Keeps you warm in the winter, but keeps you cool in the summer. When it's really hot, it's a cooling. That's how wool works. Cools you in the summer. If it's not too heavy, this is thin, and of course keeps you warm. You can make it into a toque kind of shape. You can wear it like the balaclava, like so. In the winter, sleeping on a cold fall, spring night, even a cold summer night. I didn't have to wear it sleeping though, but I wore it a couple mornings when it was cool like this as a hat. So good rig. You can use it as a rag. Lots of uses. Flies did get bad a couple times. It wasn't later in the summer. They're not so bad as they are in May, end of May and June and stuff. But there was times where they got started to get to me. And I put fly dope on a half a dozen times. I had some 30% deep there. But I use this. Throw it over. Keeps the flies off. You're really good at keeping the flies out of your neck and around your ears and stuff. So lay that over to clothing. So all that kind of stuff. So that's kind of it for tools. I went through all that. Clothing. So clothing I had, again, out for a month. So I had 4 pairs of socks. 1 pair I burnt in the fire because I wore the heels out of them. They were a long pair of compression socks. So I was wearing compression socks, nice tight pair of tube socks, go high up on my shin. And usually I wore them on their own. But then I had another pair of just thin merino wool socks that I wore these over my compression socks a couple times. Where it was warm, I didn't really need to be wearing 2 pairs of socks. But some people, and I have in the past, I find wearing the second pair prevents chafing on my feet, and I'm not so prone to get blisters. But I had no issues with my feet got a little tender, but no big deals. But I typically just wore 1 pair of socks this time around. And like I said, normally I do wear 2 to prevent the chafing. This is the first time I've just gone with 1 thin pair. So once the compression ones started wearing out, then I started wearing these. And then I just had a couple pairs of wool ones, thinner wool ones. For after a long day, my boots are wet, my day socks are wet. Once I dry my feet out and air them out, sometimes I walk around camp bare feet if there's not too many sharp objects around. I sit back by the fire, let my feet air out. Then I got a nice pair of socks to put on for the evening. I try not, I do it at times, but I try not to go bare feet in my sleeping bag because you don't want to get your sleeping bag too grimy. Typically, I wear thin summer wool top, thin summer wool undergear, and thin socks. But there was evenings where it was too warm, so maybe I just wore the top or I just wore the bottom. But I tried to wear the socks most of the times. If I didn't wear socks, I kept my feet outside the sleeping bag as much as possible because the sweat and the grime of your feet and your body makes your sleeping bag pretty grimy pretty quick in the summer. Anyhow, so a couple pairs of socks around camp. I could have got by with 3 pairs of socks, I think, especially when there were some wet, cold days when things I got like a couple situations, right? I could have used 4. I could have got by with 3, but I took 4. That is what it is. So socks, and then I have the trusty old cargo pants. I'll argue that for the cost, I'd argue that these are tops in the world for cargo pants. $25 max with taxes in from Costco here in Canada. I think, I'm pretty sure Costco's in the US as well. I don't even know if it's Costco worldwide. It could be. But these are the Costco pants. I wear them. I've been wearing them on every trip I've gone on. Every video, I have these on, whether it's this color or a green color. This is like a grayish. So lots of pockets. Quick dry. They dry very quick. What's the name on them? If you want to go look them up. The BC Clothing Company. Anyways, you get them at Costco, very cheap, and for the price, I mean, I'm sure you can go out and get an expensive pair of North Face ones or Arc'teryx with the padded knees, and I'm sure they're nice. But going out, I mean, I can't believe it. These are. I can continue to wear these. Usually, the pants get torn up pretty bad, but they're durable. So if they do get torn up for $20, $25, who cares? Throw them in the garbage when you get home. But there's pairs that I have. I'm looking at them now that I have sewn up. I don't think I've actually maybe thrown. If I've had probably a dozen pairs of those over the last 6 or 7 years, and I think I've maybe thrown out 1 or 2 that have really been banged up. I mean, I don't throw gear out unless it's really, really useless and falling apart. I like to stretch out squeeze every bit of life out of it I can. But for those pants, very good price, very good quality. And for that deal, I mean, you can't go wrong. So the cargo pants. One thing I was going to mention, I was just looking at the notes there. I have to make a little cut in the belt area because the belt they have is built in. So it's, as you see, you can't see it here. It's built into the pant itself. So you have to make a little slit to get it out, and that way you can then you make a slit, you haul it out of that kind of pouch it's tracked in. Then you can use it to put your knife on and stuff as you're walking around camp. But I can't imagine any pant would be even something like a $120 pair of Arc'teryx pants. I can't imagine them being noticeably better than these Costco beauties. Okay. So I have all that kind of stuff. So pants, socks. Just wore this the entire trip. You wash it 20 times. It still smells like smells like grime. So what's this one? This is, I can't remember now. My mother gave me this one. Mother and father, Columbia. Nice long sleeve. Got a bit of UV protection. You get a nice breeze through it. I like wearing those long sleeve shirts. So I got one of those, quick dry. And then I also have a short sleeve one. And I mean, I wore that shirt last year for 52 days, and I'm still wearing it. This one here, I wore this one across Labrador, still wearing it. Took it with me. This one's short sleeve. I wore it once or twice. Very light. Nothing to it. I can fit that in a coffee cup there. Could have got by without it most of the trip, but there was some towards the end. I got into some heavy rains and thunder and showers and all this kind of stuff. Wind and 7 degrees, I believe. And I had my long sleeve one got very wet. So it was nice to have this one for around camp. Again, I could have got by without it, but it was there. You don't know. You're going in for a month. It's hard to say, how you're going to feel, how things are going to be. Like, again, backpacking a lot different than going out in the canoe. Canoe, you can take so much more. You still got to carry it on portages, but you're not carrying it every day for every step you make, every kilometer, every bit of distance. Backpacking, you want to be a little more selective on what you're taking, I suppose. I want to be, anyways. So, other than the clothing, yeah, I had not too much. Like, not too much clothing. I'll put it all in the bag. I had just a hat, right? One ball cap, thin summer gear, Costco wool pants. These are called Paradox, like $20. A merino wool mix. This is a mech thin merino wool hoodie. Wore this one last year for 52 days, 83 days going across Labrador. Still wearing it. Thin. Smells good. That's coming towards the end of its life. Maybe I'd like, but for in the summertime, again, you're not relying on the wool. In the evening time when it cools off again up in the mountains, it was nice to have this stuff. You think hot summer, you won't need it, but it cools off in the evening. I've been out in the sun all day long, so you cool off even quicker then. Good to have this stuff. Again, sleeping in it to keep the sleeping bag not so dirty, because it's going to be dirty. And then I had, and on the same topic of in the evening and stuff like that, like I didn't take a sweater with me on this trip. I believe it's the first time ever I took no actual sweater or nothing heavy. And there was a couple times where I regretted it. Again, some of these cold, wet, damp evenings chill you to the bone. Real hypothermic weather. If you get too wet. So I was using the raincoat as a pillow, as a raincoat, but great as a windbreaker as well. So in some of the sites, in the morning, in the evening, bit of a breeze, it's cool out. I just got that wool gear. I want to be packing up camp, or maybe, out sitting by the fire, having a coffee and some oatmeal. Maybe I go down fishing in the evening or the morning. This was good. This was more or less my sweater. It was this raincoat, which is also a windbreaker. Fairly good price. Woods, Canada. Got that from Canadian Tire. Not a bad raincoat. It does, I got stuck out in some heavy rains. I wasn't sure if it soaked through a little bit because it got so wet, or if it was where I was sweating so much, my sweat made it wet underneath. It was one or the other, because this says it's breathable, but I mean it's still going to trap some of your heat, and it becomes like, it's 10 degrees out, kind of warm, raining. The situations where you almost don't need it, but where it is raining, you wear it with the long sleeve shirt on, so it creates some sweat. That's just part of being out there. Nothing's going to be perfect. You're going to be wet. You'll be dry. You'll be this. You'll be that. Can't be dwelling on it too much, but that's how it was. Nice little raincoat. $70 or $80 Canadian or something like that. And then I had these rain pants. Got these off a buddy of mine. He had them. They're Gore-Tex pants. I believe he said they were pants that the mailman would wear. An old pair some mailman wore. Now he passed them on to me, and they were great. Rain gear. So that was all for loose clothing. And I'll put it in the bag here and show you. So all goes in the bag. Everything that I wasn't wearing, of course, because I'm wearing the cargo pants, I'm wearing the long sleeve, I'm wearing socks. So just my wool gear, short sleeve, and stuff like that. Rain gear I don't keep in this dry bag. rain gear, if I know it's going to rain, I keep it handy on top of the pack. But if I don't think it's going to rain that day, I'll just put the rain gear right down the bottom. But that's it. Clothing, very little clothing, you know. Size of the hat, not much at all. So it was what I had on, plus this. Pound and a half, I don't know, not very much. The clothing didn't take up much space. I had a couple more clothing items, footwear, we'll call it. Ball cap. Oh yeah, I'm gonna mention these two in a second. What do we at? Oh yeah, I'll be here all night. So I had 2 pairs of synthetic underwear. 1 pair I wore. I eventually burned them in the fire, and I eventually burned the second pair too. When they get grimy enough. These camp shoes, I mentioned these in the last series. Good to have. Long day. You can get by without them, but like my boots got wet at times. So coming in, you got something dry to put on your feet. Camp shoes. Just you can take sneakers. Sneakers are good as well. These ones had no laces. You just slip them on. Just something light. These are good too because you can fold them up. You know, there's not really slam them in your bag. Nothing to it. I've had different pairs of those over the years. Sunglasses. Just took 1 pair of sunglasses. I've broken so many sunglasses over the years out there. These are polarized. Just a pair I got from Canadian Tire. $25, $30. Keep them in a hard shell case when I'm not using them because I've broken them in the pack before. Just stuff getting pushing on them and whatnot when I'm not wearing them. So a bit of it's a semi-hard shell case, but keeps them in good shape. And then the boots. So these are the boots. These are the lower boots I wore. Full grain leather. You know. Wish the lighting could have been better for this, but that's it. Full grain leather. A bit damaged, you know. But all in all, they're still good to go. These were a different model. I've tried the professional combat boots they had before. These are still from the professional line because I like a high boot, gives you that good ankle support. I don't think any of their not casual, but non-professional boots that Lowa carries, they're lower cut. But having a big, heavy bag, going through water and stuff, these were great. I think they were called the Renegade, Lowa Renegades. Anyways, good boots, Renegade something. If you go on Lowa's site, I'm sure you'll see them if you're interested. Great boot, good grip. They're Gore-Tex, but they're light. That was one thing compared to the other ones I've had before. So I've worn these ones here. These are the Tibet highs. They're a bit bigger than the ones I just wore. These are heavier. These are heavier boot. And doing a lot of hiking, the lighter your boot is, it's nicer on your feet. Then I've wore the combat ones as well. So I wore these ones, Combat GTX, the Tibet highs. And now I've tried out these ones. These low Renegades I just said. So the Renegades, the Combats, and the Tibets. Heavier. These are a lot heavier than these ones here. So I like the lightness. And great boot. Good boot. And especially hiking. I know the boot is an important decision. And that can make or break a trip, especially if it's a long trip. Any trip, really, can make or break. If it breaks, Well, that's it. You're out there then. You gotta grit your teeth, I guess, and keep on plugging. So the boots, the rain gear, last piece of clothing I have to talk about. No, I suppose you call it clothing. It's the first time I ever tried them. Gators. Now, more or less, Gators clip onto your boot, and they go, depending on how high a gator is. I'm not an expert in gators. These ones went up to just below my kneecap. So they cover that lower portion of your leg. They cover the upper portion of your boot. And, some of the things I mentioned here now, they're the reason why I chose Gators is because I knew I was going to be walking through some boggy areas, going over some streams. They don't make your boot waterproof, but they will prevent water from spilling in over the top of your boot. So instead of the top of my boot being here, halfway up my shin, the Gators extend the height of my boot. If I were to stick my leg in a pond, the boot would still get wet eventually, but not as much water is coming down over the top of your boot. So I got it for that reason. To see how they were protecting my boot and going through a lot of scrubby, tuckamore bush, very sharp and jagged at times. So that kind of helped protect some of my lower leg, I suppose. And I was just going to mention, no, I don't got them. Never mind. So, yeah, good for protecting that. I said keeps laces from coming untied. I noticed that my laces weren't coming untied near as much as they normally would because they were protected as the gator comes down over the top of my laces in that part of my boot. They only go down to your ankle. They don't go any lower out to the toe of your boot or nothing. Good for protecting your shin. I had some complaints that I'll talk about in a second, but it's just like I could skirt over some shallow streams and the water would be above my boot top, but again, it wouldn't be going down into my boot as quick. So I want to try these out. Now, my only thing was, I guess, again, it was a bit of a trek. We went through a lot of different terrain. So these have a buckle that goes under your boot and up on the other side. So that's what keeps these in place. This little thing here, that goes under your boot. So that's what keeps them in place. If you ever try Gators out, you'll get what I'm saying, or maybe there's a video demonstration somewhere. Anyways, the buckle broke. So that little thing goes through here. The buckle on both of them broke. So for me, these were outdoor research. I don't know if it's the quality or the tough terrain I was going through. I'm hard on gear. I mean, I'm sure if you were walking on a groomed trail, which we weren't, they'd be fine. But some of the stuff and the rocks and everything else beat them up. I don't know if I'd try them again. I'm on the fence. I'm 50-50 if I'll ever get another pair of those. We'll see. So I'm pretty much through most of the gear now. I don't want to get too deep into the tech stuff. What do we have? An hour and a half. I have a section called The Office. So I took one journal book. That was it. One journal book. I took along 2 pencils and a pen. 2 pencils and a pen. Journal, a couple pencils and a pen, and a book, and that was it. And I took The Lure of the Labrador Wild. I've read this book probably 3 or 4 times now. Hadn't taken it with me on a trip for a while. One of those books just get you kind of fired up to get out and get you in that good adventure mode. That's always nice. So I threw that one in there. Like I said, I had a few books downloaded on my phone there. But that was it for that kind of stuff. I'm not going to talk about the performance of electrical items. I'm just going to list through what I had here now. I will say I had an Anker 21 watt solar panel. Good. I used Gold 01 before. I like the Anker better. It's more efficient, especially in cloudy weather. I had an Anker power bank that goes with that. Right, tech gear is a whole new ball game, and this power bank is 20,000 milliamps. So I had that charged up before I left, so I can hold a lot of charge, a nice amount of charge. I had my headlamp. I have a black diamond headlamp. I think I tucked that away somewhere else. I've been out since for an evening. Anyways, I had just one headlamp. That had black diamond headlamp, 7 or 8 years old, still going strong. I have some 9-volt batteries because I might as well show my camera now. So this is a Canon 80D camera. So a microphone goes on this, a Rode Videomic Pro. Takes a 9-volt battery. This way, it runs off its own battery, this microphone. It's not running off the camera battery because they have other models which do run off the camera battery, and that means it's killing your camera battery quicker. So this has 9 volts that go in it. Only difference is with this one is that you have to turn it on. You have to turn it on before you start filming anything. So I'm good at remembering, but in the past I've had times where I've ran the camera and I forgot to turn the mic on. Now the other ones that plug in to the camera and run off the camera battery, as soon as you press record on the camera, the mic's working. But this one has to be turned on independently of the camera, and I guess that's just something you got to be conscious of. If not, you're going to do a lot of filming with no sound. So I have the Rode Videomic Pro. I do have the other one too that runs off the camera, but I like that one better. It's a bit more durable too. I took 9 AAA batteries for my headlamp, though I only used 3 of them the whole trip. Long days in the summer, but I had 6 extras in case. Canon 80D, I mean, I have like a UV filter on the camera that keeps the sun out of the lens. I have a Gopro Hero5, which is upstairs, but it goes into this little clamp mount, so you clamp that onto anything, boom, press the button and start filming. So the GoPro Hero5, I just said. There's a tripod for the camera. So, and this adds extra weight to my pack as well, but, it's like carrying Saku's dog food to make sure that he's well supplied. Having to carry 5 pounds of his dog food to start the trip was a sacrifice I made to have Saku out there with me. Carrying, about 10 pounds of filming gear is a sacrifice I made to get out and document the trips. Simple as that. For the first time ever, I took a bunch. Usually I just take a few camera batteries for the Canon and recharge them out there. But this time, the problem is with those cameras is that the charger, which I don't have here now, the charger for this camera has to be plugged in. So it has to be plugged in to something. That something used to be this power bank, Gold 0 power bank, which has a plug outlet over here. So this is what was how I charged those Canon batteries in the past. charge that power bank in the sun, plug the thing in, charge up the batteries. But it takes quite a bit of power to charge them, and to charge the Canon batteries. Of course, you're relying on sun. Not always sunny. Sometimes I'm moving, especially backpacking. In the canoe, it's not so bad. You can lay the solar panel out in front of you, and it's kind of getting sun throughout the day. You can change the angle. But backpacking, I tried putting the solar panel on the back of my pack, but it doesn't capture sun the same sort of way. So as I was saying, this time around, I just took a bunch of these Canon batteries. I think I took 9 or 10 of them for the Canon, and they lasted the entire trip. So 9 or 10 of those full batteries last about a month, and that's kind of a formula I figured out. So some of that stuff's a bit, it can get boring, camera gear stuff, but that's what I have for filming: the tripod, the batteries. It's my system for filming and charging and all this kind of stuff. It's always being tweaked. It's always being changed. In short, it's not easy to keep things charged up and to be out there filming and stuff. But, there's lots of people doing it, and they understand. You figure out a way to make it work and hope the sun shows itself as much as possible. I take a bunch of memory cards, batteries for the GoPro. I take a couple of these hard-shelled cases, tiny ones, and I keep the memory cards in there so they don't get beaten around. I keep one tucked away at all times where I keep extra memory cards. And then I keep one handy in my pack throughout the day. I keep an extra battery for the GoPro, an extra battery for the Canon, and a couple memory cards, and easy access to it. So when my memory card runs out, I don't got to dig down into the bottom of my bag. I just reach up to one of the top packs, take my pack off. I can easily get access to batteries and stuff without having to dig deep. So that's about, tech gear is tech gear. That's about it. And then I had first aid, and I'm not. This can be, and I've discussed this in some other videos, but there's a video back on the channel. I go over gear in a video, in a couple videos. One from crossing Newfoundland, but there's another one. It's called "How to Save a Life in the Woods," something along those lines. Did it about a year and a half, 2 years ago. So I went over some first aid items, and things haven't changed too much. But a small bag to have first aid items for me and Saku, and then a couple little repair things. Not very much. I'm not going to go through them. I'm going to list off the items I had. Maybe like I said earlier, I can post a list of all this somewhere on my website or on Facebook or Instagram or somewhere like that. Maybe in the video description of this video later on. So I had 100 milliliters of sunscreen, SPF 30, 50 milliliter little thing of Muscal bug dope, 30% DEET. I usually use Muscal or Benz. Little tiny thing of soap there to get a rinse, toothpaste, floss, toothbrush, just a smaller style tube of toothpaste. I took a couple of old rags with me. I had those. I had a pair of old jogging pants, and I cut off a couple small rags, and they came in handy later on in the trip. I got the tent a bit wet when it was raining, getting in and out, and I had to wipe off the tent on the inside. So it's good to have a couple little old rags. They weigh nothing. Then I had some just liquid gel painkillers. Didn't take the one. I don't really take those out there, but you never know when you could be in pain, so it's good to have them. I have amoxicillin, which I get for Saku at the vet and myself at the pharmacy for any infection. If we get any type of infection, so you take those for the period of time, which I have recorded in my notes because I want to know certain medications how long I need to take them for. So if I had a big cut, it got infected, same for Saku. Well, we take the pills for however long it would be, and that would get us out of a jam. I have some sedatives for Sack in case he has a bad cut. I have a suture kit to stitch him, you know. Maybe he has a bad cut. Maybe I have a really bad cut that a bandage is not going to cut it. So I have little stitching kits. So for myself, I'm just going to have to put a cloth or put something on my mouth and bite on it and stitch away. For Sack, it'd be tough to relax him enough to pull any stitching. So I have just some sedatives there, something to relax him and put him to sleep. I have a little bit of paw cream for him if his paws get tender, though they didn't. They were good on this trip. His paws have hardened up. They're over the years, but he had no paw issues on this journey. A little bit of polysporin for cuts, some compression wrap, little tiny pair of nail clippers. I have some pain medicine for Saku given to me by my vet. If you're interested in building the first aid kit for yourself, well, it's just, you know, you've used some things throughout your lifetime for little injuries. You know, go what works best for you, whatever. But for your dog, I seen my vet. I went to the vet that I use for Saku, and they helped me out and gave me items that they thought would be useful. I've said this before. That's the best thing you can do there is go see them and tell them, you know, maybe you're going out for a week and what's good things to have for my pet being out there. And they just gave me some stuff. So I educated myself through Saku's vet. What else? So a couple more. I had this thing. It's called. I'm gonna take it out. What the heck? We're into it this long now. You know, I'm sure some people had to go on, but they can come back and watch it if they want. Whatever. We're into it. We're into it. This particular thing is I did a wilderness first aid course, which is a great idea. If you get the opportunity, I recommend it. I done one a few years back, wilderness CPR and first aid, and the instructor mentioned this thing. It's called Cheeto Sam 100. It's basically stops bleeding fast, as it says here. Maybe it's a bad cut somewhere along the way for one of us, and this thing is like a blood clot thing and stops for the control of moderate to severe bleeding and management of external abrasions, lacerations. It's a one-use thing. They're about $20. It's 4 inches by 4 inches, and the instructor mentioned this could stop lethal bleeding. So I picked one of them up. Check them out. They're hard to find in Google. I think you can just get them in the US. That's where I got that one. Medical tape, just a little roll of the white medical tape. I mentioned some blisters. Some of my toes were getting sore towards the end of the trip, and I knew that the potential for a blister was coming. So I wrapped up my toes in some medical tape to prevent the chafing. Looks like my computer's going to die soon, so I am going to glue it up. Band-aids, bandages, a little bit of gauze. Half a dozen Q-tips are good to have for putting on some polysporin and stuff. Maybe I want to put it onto a cut Saku has. It's better than using my dirty fingers, maybe. some just a couple Imodium tablets in case I got bad stomach. Yeah, and that's pretty much got a few alcohol swabs and some mole skin as well for some bad blisters, some mole skin. But that's it. Then for repairs, I had some carabiners, some twist plastic zip ties for quick repairs. Just a little bit of needle and thread for sewing some stuff up. A couple spare lighters and some spare matches. I keep a little bit of dryer lint and birch bark in a tiny little Ziploc bag in case it's absolutely hammering rain, or maybe it's an emergency and we need fire quick. So just a little tinder bundle I always keep dry. Yeah. And a small, little tiny roll. This is all I had for repair items. Nothing. Just a little tiny bag. Nothing in there. But I had a clear roll of Gorilla tape. Not so big as duct tape. Crystal clear Gorilla tape. And that's what I took Gorilla tape, duct tape on my 52-day trip there last year. Longer trips, good to have, especially with canoes. You may have a canoe, a hole in your canoe or something minor that needs duct tape or whatever it might be. But I always take the duct tape with me. But backpacking, being weight conscious, I just took that Gorilla tape, a little tiny roll of it. And that was it. Besides the food, I'm going to close it up now. I've gone through, seems to be everything that I wanted to. In some things I went more in depth than I wanted to. Other things I probably could have went more in depth into. But that's it. I hope this helps you folks if you want to get out and do some of your own trips, short or long, whatever it might be. I just want to pass along some things I use. So, sometimes the videos, I don't take the time in some of these series and whatnot. I'm not going to put in a big clip of 15, 20, 30 minutes going over gear. I just want to show the adventure. I want to bring you along for that. So I'm happy to do an extra video like this to show you what's in the pack and what kind of stuff I'm taking along. It's always changing for myself. You're always tweaking your kit, but I hope it helps you folks and, keeps you going to get out on your own adventures. Have I been blurry or what? The lighting has just been awful on this video, but that's it. Making the best of it. But I've gone over everything I've wanted to. I think, I don't, of course, the food is the food, but I do take, I'm just looking at them now, this is what I take coffee in. I took some ground coffee and a little pill bottle. This is a Nalgene pill bottle. This is just another one that we had some vitamin something was in. I don't know if it was Tylenol or I don't know what it was. But I kept my camp spices in one. This is another Nalgene. Nalgene makes little pill bottles like this. So I bought a couple of them for $2 each. But instant coffee in this one. I had a little bit of ground coffee in this one. This was my spices. In this one, I had more instant coffee. Got to have enough coffee. I came back with a little bit. But, and then I had another one with sugar. So this was full with brown sugar, which I had plain oatmeal, so I always added sugar to it. So between the oatmeal and my tea, which I was also adding sugar to, this was filled with sugar and it's pretty much empty now. There's a couple, that's what I use for spices and coffee and stuff. It's, you got a plastic bag or whatever. I guess the first problem with that, and I've been trying to cut down on plastic as well, and when I'm packing, is that it's not reusable. And I know those are plastic, those bottles, but I'm using those year after year. So one of those is 4 or 5 years old. So I just keep putting instant coffee into it. But they're not going to get holes in them like bags would. Then you're losing tea or your coffee or you're losing spices. So those are fairly durable. But I just seen one comment at the bottom. Campede works better than moleskin. I don't know what that is. Campede? I don't know. I've only, to be honest with you, my feet have been all right. So I don't really use moleskin too much, but I can't. Last time I used moleskin was crossing Newfoundland, actually. So, but I'll check that stuff out, Campede. Thanks for throwing that out there. That's about it, I suppose. I don't want to get into food, but I'm just thinking if there's anything else I wanted to add. I got 4% battery left there on the computer, and the plug's too far away to plug it in. Yeah, no, had about 1.5 pounds of food per day, roughly 2,800 calories per day. Not that much considering the going I was doing. I lost about a dozen pounds or something. I was eating a lot of fish, had to rely on that. Of course, you're going out for so long, your pack's going to get heavy with gear, with food, but you can only carry so much food. But 1.5 pounds is good in the summertime. Rule of thumb, 1.5 pounds, 2 pounds in the summer, 2.5, even upwards to 3 in the winter if you're getting into very cold conditions. But that's a rule of thumb. So I had roughly 1.5 pounds for 30 days. So I had something like 44 pounds of food to begin the trip. Yeah. For the first time, I don't have any there now, but I tried out military rations of 1,500 calories per ration, but they're not dry, they're wet. Someone had gave them to me, and I was thankful. I appreciate that. The person who passed them along, but I'd take them for shorter trips. They had lots of flavor diversity, but they're a bit heavy. Where some of the contents aren't dehydrated or freeze-dried. Yeah, about 2,800 calories per day. To do lots of jerky, lots of oatmeal. Pastas. I had some of those freeze-dried meals where you pour the water in. Lots of trail mix. Pretty simple on the foods. But that could be another topic for another day. I'm going to clue it up again now. Pushing the 2-hour mark. Just flicking through some comments now, waiting for the computer's going to die any minute. Yeah, 98 pounds. I see someone say, what was your total weight? 98 pounds. You're out there for a month. You're going to have some gear. Add the filming and carrying some of Saku's food. I'm going to have a bit more even. So that's it. Overall, it was a great trip, great experiences. I can't wait to sit down eventually and go through the content, and it's going to be a great documentary series once I'm done with the upcoming winter series. We've seen so much wildlife, caught some good fishing, amazing landscape, mountainous at times, pretty highlandish. We're down in some valleys and down by some rivers where there was some woods. Most of the time, very little woods, high, barren country. My 1%, I'm going to close it now. Actually, I'm going to plug this in just so I don't lose you. Last second. I'm going to have to pull it over a bit. Don't die on me. This is hilarious. Anyhow, I hope you all enjoy the rest of your summer. Get out when you can. Life is better outdoors. Catch you in the next video. Lots to come to the channel. Take care. Have a good evening. Appreciate you tuning in.